1. The Great Pyramid Engineering. Today, let's start with the pyramids, humanity's eternal mystery. You'll be surprised to know that each block of limestone and granite weighs between 2 and 80 tons. Sure, modern cranes can lift them, but in 2600 BCE, Egypt had no iron tools and no wheels capable of bearing such loads, and certainly no machinery to speak of. Yet they raised this mountain of stone 481 feet high, so how? Archaeologists think it could be either one of two main techniques. First, ramps. Some suggest a straight ramp, though this would have been longer than the pyramid itself. Others propose a spiral ramp wrapping around the sides. Second, water lubrication. And the surprise doesn't just end there, you see, as the pyramid's alignment is near perfect to true north, with no compasses. How? Likely by tracking the rotation of circumpolar stars, which never set below the horizon. In short, ramps, water physics, river transport, and astronomy. Together, they gave us one of the greatest feats of ancient engineering, still standing after 4,500 years. 2. Roman concrete. We couldn't make this list without getting to the Roman Empire, where concrete was way more than just a building material. Really, it was the backbone of civilization. Pretty different from the crumbling concrete of today, which begins to fall apart in a few decades. Roman concrete has endured nearly 2,000 years. So, what made it different? The answer is in volcanic ash. You see, Roman engineers discovered that mixing volcanic ash with lime and seawater created a chemical reaction that formed new minerals inside the concrete. One of these minerals, aluminum tobermorite, actually grew stronger over time. When cracks appeared, seawater seeped in and triggered fresh crystal growth, essentially healing the concrete from within. Built in the 2nd century BCE, are very much intact, even with centuries of crashing waves. Today, scientists are studying Roman techniques to develop eco-friendly, long-lasting concrete, hoping to replace our short-lived formulas with something sustainable, just as the Romans did. 3. The Antikethera Mechanism. In 1901, sponge divers exploring a shipwreck off the Greek island of Antikethera surfaced with a corroded lump of bronze. At first, it looked like nothing more than a chunk of debris, but hidden inside was one of the most astonishing technologies of the ancient world. Using modern X-rays and 3D scans, researchers found out that it had a network of at least 37 bronze gears, cut with teeth so fine they actually rivaled the delicate intricacy of Swiss watches. But the most interesting fact here is that it was genuinely functional instead of being ornamental. Turn a small hand crank, and the gears sprang into action, rotating multiple dials on the device's surface. These dials didn't just track days of the year, which still would have been impressive. No, they modeled the movements of the sun, the moon, and even the known planets. What's most remarkable here in this case is that this kind of delicate gearwork pretty much disappeared after this, not reappearing in Europe until medieval clockmakers got started. That's basically over 1,000 years later. 4. The Inca road system. High in the Andes, centuries before asphalt highways and GPS, the Inca Empire wove together one of the most remarkable road networks in history. Known as the Capac Nian, or Royal Road, this system stretched more than 25,000 miles, enough to circle the Earth. The roads weren't uniform. Some cut across coastal deserts, others climbed steep cliffs at altitudes above 16,000 feet. In mountain terrain, they were paved with carefully fitted stone slabs. In softer ground, they were reinforced with gravel, drainage channels, and retaining walls. They were arteries of the empire. Relay runners, called chauski, sprinted along them, carrying messages, goods, and even fresh fish to inland cities hundreds of miles from the coast. Using a system of way stations, these runners covered vast distances in astonishing time, sometimes, or usually, even faster than mounted couriers in Europe. All of this was accomplished without a wheel or horse. The Incas relied on llamas for cargo and their own endurance for everything else. The network stitched together valleys, mountains, and coasts, binding an empire that stretched across 6 modern nations. Today, much of it still survives, not as ruins, but as usable roads. 5. Ancient surgery and medicine. When we think of ancient technology, truthfully, scalpels and surgical tools are definitely not what comes to mind. And yet, medicine was one of humanity's most advanced frontiers. Take trepanation, the practice of drilling a hole into the skull. In Peru, surgeons performed this procedure as early as 400 BCE. Archaeologists actually found real skulls with neat circular openings, and there were many showing clear signs of bone regrowth. That means patients survived. In fact, survival rates in some regions were higher than those of battlefield surgery during the American Civil War 2,000 years later. The likely purpose was to relieve pressure from head injuries caused by blunt weapons. Meanwhile, in India, the physician Sushruta was compiling the Sushruta Samhita around 600 BCE. We're talking about a text that described more than 300 surgical procedures and 120 instruments. He even detailed methods for nasal reconstruction using tissue from the cheek or forehead. These are, no joke, techniques that wouldn't appear in Europe until the Renaissance. Also, in China, acupuncture emerged around the 1st century BCE, mapping meridians of the body with remarkable consistency. These methods were far from being random guesswork. You can tell they were systematic attempts to solve real problems with human health. 6. The Baghdad Battery. In the 1930s, archaeologists digging near Baghdad uncovered something puzzling: a set of clay jars, each about the size of a fist. At first glance, they looked like ordinary storage vessels, but inside, they held a copper cylinder wrapped around an iron rod. This was a design that seemed far too deliberate to be accidental. These artifacts became known as the Baghdad Batteries, and they date back nearly 2 whole millennia. Actually, when modern researchers reconstructed them and filled the jars with vinegar or lemon juice, the setup produced about 1 volt of electricity. Not much by today's standards, of course, but enough to raise questions about what their creators were trying to achieve, like how one theory suggests electroplating, using electricity to deposit a thin layer of gold onto silver objects. Then there are other groups who think they may have been used for religious rituals, like maybe producing a faint spark or shock that seemed divine. Another possibility is that they were simply storage jars, and the metallic parts had some other purpose we've misinterpreted. Whatever their true use might have been, the Baghdad batteries are a surefire way to know that ancient people were experimenting with chemistry and energy way more than we realize. 7. The ancient Chinese seismograph. In the year 132 CE, during the Han Dynasty, a brilliant inventor named Zhang Heng created a machine that could detect earthquakes hundreds of miles away. We're not kidding, it could detect even when tremors weren't felt locally. The world's first seismoscope. The device looked like an ornate bronze vessel and was taller than a person and shaped like a giant urn. Inside the urn, hidden from view, you see a delicate pendulum system. Basically, when the ground moved, the pendulum swung ever so slightly and led to a mechanism that released one of the dragon's balls, which then dropped into the waiting toad's mouth. The sound of the metal sphere striking the bronze toad alerted observers, while the specific dragon that released its ball indicated the direction of the quake. Historical records describe how the device once signaled an earthquake to the west. At first, the skeptics dismissed it, until a messenger arrived days later reporting seismic destruction in that very direction. For an empire stretched across vast distances, this technology was invaluable. Officials could respond to disasters faster, sending aid to affected regions. 8. Greek fire. And now for our final entry, we'll talk about something really unbelievable. The 7th CE weapon from the Byzantine Empire, Greek fire. Can you imagine being aboard a wooden warship on the open sea when suddenly a stream of liquid flame erupted and stuck to sails, decks, even the water's surface? You see, the fire couldn't be doused with water. It only spread faster. Greek fire was more than just burning pitch or oil. Really, it was a chemical weapon, and what's both disappointing but also logical is that the exact formula died with the empire. Historians suspect it may have involved petroleum, pine resin, sulfur, or quicklime, but no recipe has ever been confirmed. Some theories even suggest a mixture that ignited upon contact with water. What we do know is its effectiveness. Greek fire played a crucial role in defending Constantinople, repelling Arab sieges in the 7th and 8th centuries. Without it, the Byzantine Empire might have collapsed centuries earlier.